I got sick. I'm going to go to bed. They're super brittle. Beyond the work that we can do in this shop.
You join me this week looking for a kettle to make a lemon sip because I have manflu. So apologies in advance, this week has limited progress. The video is a bit disjointed, but there's some exciting purchases that I want to share with you, and we're still ticking along. We're still getting some stuff done. So I hope there's enough to keep you entertained anyway. I had never actually intended to spray any of the ceilings. My initial plan was to only work from wall height down, not worry about what was above my head, take down just what I didn't need, and leave the rest. But the problem is, once I had actually taken a look at the ceiling once I moved in, the more it bugged me, and I realised that this was my opportunity. Once I got machines in, once we start to build up partitions, it's just not going to be easy or feasible to do anything with the ceiling. So all of the stuff you're seeing here, 27 years worth of stuff screwed to ceilings, it all has to come down. There's airlines, battens, unistrut, old lighting, and reams and reams of silicon. So whenever these guys had a leak, they just put a bead of silicon right where the leak was. The problem, of course, with silicon is it doesn't bond, and it's not overpaintable. So everything comes down, bit by bit. And it's really one of those jobs that once you start, you kind of regret starting. But you just have to keep going, mile after mile of cable, screw after screw, mount after mount, bracket after bracket. I got asked if I was going to replace the fluorescent tubes with LED tubes, and that was my initial plan. But then, as soon as I started to look into these units, I realised it just wasn't going to happen. They're hanging off the wall, as you can see, and the terminal blocks they just disintegrate. The heat of the fluorescent units, I guess, over 20 years has just broken down the plastic. So in a lot of them, there was live terminals exposed. It's not a risk I'm willing to take for the 50% cost saving. As this workshop is a side business for me, it's really imperative that I get the office fitted out as soon as possible, and the biggest constraint for that has been internet. So I've been waiting for a good few weeks now for an engineer appointment to come and run a new line, and I got notification that it was coming in a couple of days. So I set about thinking about where I wanted to have all of the line installed, and I felt that this loading bay desk thing at the front of the unit was completely useless. So I think there's actually a showroom going to go here, but for the meantime we don't need this, so I'm going to tear the whole lot out, clean it through, and give the engineer a clean mounting point for the new internet. And then from here we can run Ethernet to each of the bays and to the office for all of the internet connected machines, and obviously for my primary business, which operates from the office. And we're going to do that by running cable trays. But when I inherited the unit, there was already miles and miles of Ethernet cable, and the temptation at this point just to cut them with snips was huge, but I took the time to trace them back, find out where they were, what they were used for, to see whether or not I could make use of them again. A couple of new purchases to replace Festool accessories that are long since lost. and the fun discoveries just they just keep coming. And of course, removing another fixture, another fitting, means another bag of dust. It just keeps coming. Hoovering the walls might seem like overkill, but I need to keep on top of it.
It's massive. That's big, isn't it? So, I got sick. But not before collecting this stuff. So, when I moved in, there was a spray booth of sorts already installed, with a fairly large but single phase radial axle fan, just not big enough. To hear that as I'm starting to clean the fan with the intention of using it, there's a good 2 inch of overspray and paint particulate that's been accumulated on the inside of the enclosure. So the filter isn't doing its job, and you can see from the panels behind me there's as much paint on the walls, the floor and the ceiling as there is being dragged into the filter. And the root of the problem is that less than a metre square of filtration for a room this size is just not sufficient. So eBay. I started thinking about how I could build a filter panel for the rear wall with a larger fan, chimney, extract out the back, and the costs were just racking up and up. So I couldn't find a suitably sized 3-phase extraction fan for less than £500–600. That's without the time investment of building the enclosure and everything else that comes with it. And then I happened across this on eBay. So this is a 2 metre by 1.8 metre steel frame enclosure. It has 2 rows of paper filters, which not only have much greater efficiency than the fiberglass pleated filters that it's replacing, but they're also 6 to 8 times the surface area frontage. This is a jet chimney, clean inverted rocket ship. This is to get the extracted fumes up high enough in the atmosphere really important here. We are effectively on a farm. We're surrounded by domestic households, and keeping our neighbours happy is really important. I managed to pick up an air-fed mask, and I think even when spraying waterborne coatings, that will make things a lot more pleasant for the operator in here, whether that's me or someone else. So, there was a comment on last week's video about wishing that I'd worn better masks as I was growing up, and that's my answer to that question. You are 100% correct. One set blanks. The things that we work with, they're not to be trifled with. So, better extraction, better personal protective equipment. To complement our new spray booth extraction, we need some way of actually delivering paint. So that's this 300 litre pressure vessel, air tank, and this 7.5 kilowatt Compair rotary screw compressor.
Once I'd worked out just how much paint I was going to need to paint the ceilings and stop crying, I found out there was a 2-week lead time on receiving it. So there's obviously a lot of prep work to be done, and one of the things that I realised when I first sprayed the ceiling is that doing it from hop-ups wasn't going to work. So I did some research on finding some cost-effective extension poles for airless sprayers. The branded ones are incredibly expensive for what they are, and I managed to find this 2 extension bar set from Amazon. Quality seems good. I'll see how we get on with it when we're actually spraying. But a single extension pole enables me to spray the whole ceiling without using any hop-ups, so I can get around and test that a little bit quicker. And having stripped all the silicon from the board joints now, I can replace them with this exterior grade acrylic caulk. This stuff will bond to damp surfaces, which is important for what we're going to use it for, but it's going to be slightly more breathable than a pure silicone, and the benefit is we can overpaint it. So I'm just going to go around the unit now, panel by panel, side by side, caulking every joint, and then I'm going to smooth them off. The benefit of doing this, of course, is that the individual board joints are actually sealed. So in a wood shop, when you have dust extraction or spray booth extraction going on, you're actually creating negative pressure, which is pulling down on the ceiling. And above the ceiling, you have insulation fill and cement board and things that produce dust that you might not want in your atmosphere. So ensuring that every board joint is caulked, smoothed and tooled means that we get effectively an airtight seal around the ceiling boards, and we don't suck anything nasty down from that roof fill. This is very much an exercise in how nice a purse can I make from a pig's ear, because this isn't my roof, this isn't my ceiling to be modifying or changing, even if I wanted to. So I very much have to work with what's here. And here you can see the problem with holding water back where it wants to come through is it's going to find its way through, but it's how much damage it does on the way past. So silicone will stop the water seeping through, but it also means it's holding it on the back of the timber, and you can see the effect that that's had on the timber and the adhesion of the paint. So I'm fully aware that we're not fixing this problem. We are putting a sticking plaster over it for a year or two, but that's all we're allowed to do, and it's sufficient for what we can and what we need to do right now to get machines in. And that caulking basically made up the remainder of my week, just going panel by panel, section by section, for hours. And so with the last bit of time I had left of the weekend, I tried to get a bit of masking up done. So my plan is very much now that we're going to focus on getting everything prepped for spraying, clear out as much as we possibly can, and our next video will be just spraying the unit, walls and ceilings. Hopefully all the materials are going to turn up next week, and we'll see just how quickly we can get all 3,000 square foot of this workshop painted. And then the fun stuff begins. That's when we can start getting machinery in and we can start doing cabling and things like that. So yeah, hope to see you next time.